Why conflict avoidance is slowly destroying your life. Imagine that. You are sitting in a restaurant. The waiter brings cold food. You are unhappy, but you smile and say, "Everything is fine." A colleague blames his work on you for the 100th time, and you nod and agree, because I don't want to spoil the relationship. A friend is always an hour late, ignores your time, but you don't say anything because he's not on purpose. Congratulations, you have officially joined the club of people who avoid conflict. Membership is free, but the price is your mental health, self-esteem, and all the normal relationships in your life. The most fun part? You think that by avoiding conflict, you preserve peace and harmony. In fact, you just collect unspoken grievances like Pokemon cards until one day you explode over some small thing, and everyone around will be shocked. What's the matter with you? Have you always been so calm? Calm? No, dear friend. It's called suppressed rage with delayed start. That's what really happens when you avoid conflict, and why this is one of the most toxic patterns of behavior, which slowly but surely turns your life into a swamp of passive aggression and hidden resentment. First, the myth that conflict is bad. Let's start with the main illusion. You've had it hammered into your head since childhood. Conflict is bad, scandal is shameful, good people don't argue. The result? A whole generation of adult children who are afraid to tell the waiter that the soup is too much, let alone complain to the boss or partner. Here's the truth that no one wants to hear. Conflict is not a problem. Conflict is information. This is a signal that boundaries have been violated, expectations have not been met, and something is going wrong. And the only way to fix it is to speak the problem out loud. Avoiding conflict does not solve the problem. It preserves it. It's like noticing a leak in the house and just putting a bucket under it, hoping that it will somehow resolve itself. People who know how to conflict well build strong relationships because they solve problems as they arrive rather than hoarding them to a critical mass. And those who avoid it are just postponing the inevitable explosion. The difference between a healthy conflict and a toxic one is the difference between controlled incineration of garbage and a fire that destroys everything around. Conflict is not war. This is a negotiation. It's a way to figure out what's important to everyone and find a compromise. But you don't do it because you're afraid. Second, you're not avoiding conflict, you're avoiding discomfort. Let's be honest. You don't avoid conflicts because you care about others. You avoid them because it's uncomfortable, because it's scary, because suddenly a person will be offended, angry, stop loving you. This is pure selfishness wrapped in a wrapper of altruism. You prefer to replace another person's short discomfort with a long torture of yourself. The logic is amazing. Instead of a 5-minute awkward conversation, you choose months of internal boiling and accumulated anger. It's like refusing to go to the dentist because it hurts and eventually losing a tooth. And now the most interesting thing. Other people feel your fake smile. They can see that you're unhappy, but you don't say anything. And do you know what causes it? Distrust, because they understand that you are not honest. You are playing the game of everything is fine, even though everything is bad. And this destroys relationships faster than any open conflict. The irony is that by avoiding discomfort, you create much more discomfort in the long run. This is an investment in unhappiness at an interest rate. The third, you're teaching people not to respect you. Here's the hard truth. When you constantly avoid conflict and agree to everything, you send a clear signal to the world that my boundaries can be violated with impunity. I can be used. My opinion is not important. Humans are not telepaths. If you don't say what you don't like, they'll keep doing the same thing. Moreover, they won't even know that something is wrong. And when you eventually blow up, they genuinely won't understand what happened. Why didn't you say anything before? You teach others how to treat you. Is this the 10th time a colleague has dumped work on you? That's because the first 9 times you agreed and didn't even try to set a boundary. Does a friend constantly cancel plans at the last minute? because you never said it was unacceptable. Respect does not come automatically. It must be demanded. And the only way to do that is to show where your boundaries are and what happens when they are crossed. This is not aggression, it's self-respect. And when you have no boundaries, you turn into a rug. And they don't marry rugs, they don't get promoted, and they don't get invited to interesting projects. They are simply used until they wear out.
Fourth, passive aggression is your favorite poison. Here's a fun fact. People who avoid direct conflict become masters of passive aggression. Because the anger doesn't go away, she just finds other, more perverted ways of expressing herself. You won't tell your boss that you're unhappy, but you'll accidentally forget about his requests. You won't complain to your partner, but you will be cold and distant, and when asked what's wrong, answer, "Everything is fine," in a tone that makes it clear that everything is catastrophically abnormal. You won't point out his joint to a friend, but you will tell others about it behind their backs. Passive aggression is a cowardly form of conflict. You're fighting anyway, but without rules, without honesty, without a chance for a solution. It's a guerrilla war where no one wins, everyone suffers, and relationships rot from the inside out. The most toxic thing is that passive aggression gives you the illusion of control. You think, "I'll show him," but in reality, you're just poisoning the atmosphere and making things worse. And the main victim of this game is yourself, because you're storing poison inside. Do you know what's better than passive aggression? Active honesty. Just tell me what's wrong. That's what adults do.
Fifth, conflict is a skill that needs to be trained. Here's what no one says. The ability to conflict constructively is a skill, like driving a car or cooking. If you've never done this, of course it will be scary and embarrassing, but that doesn't mean you have to avoid it all your life. There's a technique called assertive communication. This is when you express your opinion and defend borders, but you don't attack another person. The formula is simple. I feel X when you do Y because Z. I need you to do A instead. For example, I feel used when you dump your work on me at the last minute because I also have my own deadlines. I need you to give me at least a day's notice if you need help. No aggression, no accusations, just facts and a clear request. And you know what? In 80% of cases, people respond appropriately because it just didn't occur to them that this was a problem. But if you never practice, then of course, any attempt at conflict turns into an awkward mumble or explosive scandal. Start small. Return the wrong food in the restaurant. Tell a friend that his joke was inappropriate. Turn down a colleague when you don't have time. Every little step makes you stronger. Sixth, the real price of avoidance is a lost life. And now the most important thing. As long as you avoid conflict, you avoid life. Because everything interesting, important, and meaningful is outside your comfort zone. Do you want a promotion? You need to have a conflict with your boss about your salary. Do you want a healthy relationship? We need to discuss problems, not sweep them under the carpet. Do you want a real friendship? You need to tell the truth sometimes, even if it's unpleasant. People who avoid conflict live small, safe, boring lives. They choose mediocre jobs because they're afraid to ask for more. They stay in a toxic relationship because it's scary to break up. They suffer disrespect because they can't stand up for themselves. And then, at 40, 50, 60 years old, they look back and realize, I have not lived my life. I lived as expected of me. He agreed, smiled, and avoided the waves. And what is the result? Emptiness, resentment, and a sense of wasted years. Conflict is not the enemy. The enemy is cowardice, which disguises itself as peacefulness. True harmony is possible only where there is honesty, and there is no honesty without conflict.
Bottom line, why you need to stop avoiding conflicts. First, conflict is not a bad thing, it's information. Healthy conflicts solve problems. Avoiding them preserves them. Second, it's not conflict you're avoiding, but discomfort. A short discomfort is better now than a long suffering later. The third, silence teaches people not to respect you. Borders need to be voiced and protected. Fourth, passive aggression is a cowardly form of conflict that poisons relationships. Fifth, constructive conflict is a skill that can and should be developed. Start small. Sixth, the price of avoidance is a lost life. Everything important is beyond your comfort. A bonus. The main principle is that true respect and intimacy are possible only through honesty, and honesty sometimes requires conflict. Stop being afraid and start living. Subscribe to learn more about the truth without filters.